empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action.
There's reality TV, and then there's the surreal version of that format.
I, Donald John Trump.
This was the moment a former reality television star became the most powerful elected politician anywhere. The oath of office that gave Donald Trump control of the Oval Office has all kinds of implications, starting in the West Wing of the White House. That's where the briefing room is, where the White House press corps resides. That is, until the new administration moves them out of the building, which President Trump's staff says is under consideration.
Having been a White House correspondent myself and having advocated for them when I was the bureau chief at CNN, the briefing room location for the press covering the President of the United States is vital and really sets a tone and demonstrates a level of access and accountability that's virtually unprecedented in the world.
If you move the press out of where it's been traditionally, you're sending a message that we don't respect you as much, we don't need you as much, we can take our message to the people ourselves.
You know, the press corps does not have access to 10 Downing Street in London, and they certainly don't have access to the Kremlin or the Élysée Palace in France. What it means is that people in the media and people at the White House interact face to face every day.
Keeping the press corps at arm's length will limit the access White House reporters have grown accustomed to, but it may actually prove to be a good thing. When journalists get access, they often try to preserve it. And sometimes that means not asking the tough questions, not rocking the boat, such as when the Bush administration sold Americans a story about Iraq, Saddam Hussein, and weapons of mass destruction.
Saddam Hussein has led Iraq to many mistakes in the past, principally by developing weapons of mass destruction.
A false narrative that went virtually unchallenged by all those White House reporters with all that access. And then there are those who argue that as bad as the signs are for American journalism under Donald Trump, his rise to power is exactly what American journalists need.
I see this as a springtime.
I appreciate you for joining us.
There are pieces of the American press that long ago settled into a mode of calling up the officials and giving them airtime.
You look good. Josh, how are you?
General Keane, great to see you.
Congressman McCall, always a pleasure to have you on New Day. Appreciate your perspective on this.
If they want to hear something true, they're going to be able to do that with this administration, and that means they're going to have to get their information somewhere else, and I think that's a good thing.
Plus, and this is where I think there could be a journalistic spring, Donald Trump is very quickly going to put very serious issues on the table. We're going to repeal Obamacare and replace it with something else. There are a host of questions that go with that. Who's helped? Who's hurt? How does it work? Where does the money come from? That's an opportunity to dive deep and really explain to people.
There's a lot of energized journalists, but there's also fewer journalists than ever, so they'll have to do the work of what used to be a much larger professional army.
The press has created a rigged system.
He's certainly thrown down a gauntlet and brought a certain level of unity to the so-called mainstream or big media, and he's caused some soul searching, and we'll see what comes out of it.
I mean, it's possible that this will prove to be something positive for the press and therefore for citizens, but I don't actually see it that way. The signs point to a very tough time ahead for the mainstream press. I'm talking about the news organizations that do real reporting that is factual, and when everything that comes out of those organizations is branded as fake news, I think that actually the public is not served well there, and I worry about where that's going to lead.
Donald Trump is hardly the first American president to take issue with the coverage of his administration. At 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, manipulating the media comes with the territory. But no one has done it quite this way before.
We have breaking news we're following.
Last week's CNN Buzzfeed story on the alleged dossier Russian intelligence officials had on Trump, and the prospect that he was compromised by that information was in that respect typical. Rather than argue with the details of the reporting, or the reliability of the sources. Trump simply called it fake news.
I think it's a disgrace that information that was false and fake and never happened got released.
Attacking two established news outlets and equating their work with the kind of fiction that fly-by-night online operators produced during the election campaign.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question?
Go ahead.
What his strategy lacks in subtlety,
Go ahead.
Since you are attacking
No,
our
not
news
you.
it makes up for ineffectiveness, which creates a whole new set of challenges for anyone covering this administration.
The incoming administration's strategy, and Trump's specifically, is to discredit reporting that they don't like, and that tends to run parallel with whatever they find unflattering or against their cause. So long as we have a free press, I think that it's in their best interest and the country's best interest to not assume victim mode and to embrace the power that exists to chip away at the forces that would chip away at them.
Fake news is not just the domain of right-wing conspiracy sites. You know, we're all familiar with some rather famous examples of fake news purveyed by the major networks and newspapers in this country. Real news versus fake news. It's a battle to get people to be equipped with the tools to tell the difference, but it's been a long time coming, and we're going to have to navigate this.
Donald Trump has been building on something that's been coming along for a long time now, which is that we're a very partisan society, we're very divided. The press has become a whipping boy. He may not be as well informed about foreign affairs as other presidents. What he is very good at is at marketing himself and now his administration. I think that he's a actually very skilled media manipulator, and that we're going to see more of that as we go along.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Manipulating the media helped get Donald Trump the White House. He was a soundbite machine, a ratings magnet, happy to take the free coverage and then less than thrilled with the scrutiny that followed. The honeymoon's over before it even started, and the prospects for the marriage are not great. That's the reality for a TV show that Americans will be tuning into for the next 4 years.